But what if the main subject color of the video is already a white? This is everything you need to know about an awesome and immensely versatile paint color by Sherwin-Williams. Its color code is SW7006 and its name is Extra White. This may sound like a straightforward color based on the name alone, but there is actually quite a bit you do need to know about it. Good thing for both of us actually, you found the awesomest painting and decorating channel on YouTube, because this is all we talk about around here several times a week. So subscribe for a surefire way to stay up to date with all of your paint related needs. Some of the most important things to know about any specific paint color is how light or bright it is, what are the undertones you can expect, and potentially some use cases for it. I'm gonna give you all of that, as well as some other coordinating paint colors that I picked to go with it. Because paint colors are like me and are much happier when they're surrounded by loved ones, or other paint colors, I guess. The studio gets a bit lonely sometimes, y'all. Not gonna lie. All right, so the first thing we want to look at is the details tab for Extra White on the Sherwin-Williams website. This is going to give us a lot of pretty interesting information that we can leverage. You can see the color code right over here, the name of course, whether you can use it inside or outside, interior, exterior, but I wanna go all the way to the LRV. I love looking at the LRV. Even though you can technically pronounce it as LRV, it's really just an acronym that stands for light reflectance value. Sounds complicated, but all it is a 0 to 100 percentage. The higher or the closer it is to 100, the lighter and brighter a color will appear. 86 is a very high score, which is no surprise coming from a color called Extra White. Am I right? It's not necessarily the brightest white I've ever seen. In fact, it's not even the brightest white that Sherwin-Williams makes. Spoiler alert, I may talk about a brighter white in approximately 45 seconds. So if it's not a pure white or even an extra white, what kind of color is it? I think in practical use, it still does read as a white, especially against darker colors. And like 95% of the colors will be darker than this. So in that case, I guess it is pretty white. It just has this touch of softening from a hint of gray, and even though its RGB values may suggest that there is a touch of a yellow warmth, the opposite is true in practical use. Extra White ends up having the slightest of cool blue color casts coming through against bright daylight, or even cooler interior lighting. It's right on the cusp of neutrality that is highly susceptible to going one way or another temperature-wise, and usually it is towards the cool side of things. This blue undertone will be pretty neutralized if you do have it against any cooler leaning colors like blues or greens or purples, but it may pop up even more prominently next to overly warm ones, or if you're using it outside, for example. So it's a very bright white, but not necessarily the brightest, and maybe a touch cool. And it's an excellent choice to use on trim, whether you want to use it inside or outside as part of a cooler color palette. And as we move into our coordinating paint colors, the first one is a funny one to me. It's the white color pairing. I typically include a white color pairing in all of these videos because it's always handy to have. But what if the main subject color of the video is already a white, like this case? Well, you can go into two different directions. Either you just stick with Extra White as the only white paint color in the palette, or you can go with an even whiter white in high reflective white. Remember that spoiler alert earlier? Well, high reflective white is not only brighter than Extra White, it's the brightest white you can get in Sherwin-Williams paint. You'll see a noticeable jump in starkness here, where high reflective white has almost this purity to it. Its LRV is 93, which is mega bright, and it's nearly bright enough to have a discernible difference next to Extra White. I would say it's the only other white paint color that I would use alongside Extra White, but in more cases than not, you'll probably be fine just sticking with one. Now, Zurich White is definitely into off-white territory, and it is our light color pairing of the video. It has enough warmth to it being one of those grays or gray beige colors, but it's not overly yellow leaning in its warmth either, with its almost taupey or brown gray quality. I try to avoid going with overly warm paint colors next to extra white for that reason that I mentioned earlier. But Zurich white feels grounded enough where it won't conflict, and actually makes a wonderful main wall color inside the home, or an off-white exterior color to contrast against the much brighter extra white as a trim color, for example. Morning Fog is the mid-tone color pairing that I selected, and we can clearly see how much cooler this color is. It's seemingly a mid-tone slate gray blue that is rich with saturation. I love incorporating colors like this with extra white, mainly because it capitalizes on that cool touch found within it. Extra white looks so clean and crisp against Morning Fog, so the two of them can coexist beautifully. My favorite color in this entire palette is the dark pairing, which is not necessarily the accent color, I guess, because it has a slightly muted quality to it, considering its level of saturation. It's the dusty pine green called Rocky River, which I think is a stunning deep green that is a match made in heaven next to extra white. Whites with a touch of warmth are also really handy, and there's one by Sherwin-Williams right over here. Really important you compare the two to see which one works better for you.